Hello everyone, it's me, Bea G, and today I'll be offering a complete timeline of all of the Sonic and Blizzard War in preparation for BlizzardHailstorm Part 1, The La Perm, which releases on August 15th. Now, I don't think you must know all this lore to understand any of Blizzard, as I still stand that even non-Sonic fans can enjoy the series, but it does add to the experience, so I like to offer an easy way for everyone to get caught up. I'll not be covering all Sonic lore in this video, as not every game is important to the Blizzard lore, but I'll be covering the vast extent of the canon, so don't be upset if your favorite game isn't mentioned here. I've referenced that game, particularly a game like 06, in the series. All that being said, let's get started. To begin, we must start with the cycle in Sonic's world that has persisted since the beginning of time itself. Two beings, Dark Gaia and Light Gaia, are in a continuous struggle. Dark Gaia grows and grows over millions of years, destroying the Earth, but after that, Light Gaia healed it, creating an endless cycle in Sonic's world. During the most recent iteration of this, a group of aliens known as the Ancients come to this planet to seek refuge from an intergalactic terror known as the End. These aliens carried mythical jewels known as the Chaos Emeralds that contain limitless power known as Chaos Energy. These jewels were drawn to this planet because of the Master Emerald, a more powerful jewel with the power to control them hidden away somewhere. They hide here and build great structures on a group of islands known as the Starfall Islands as defenses against this terror, but unfortunately, they are no use. In a last-ditch effort, a few brave warriors seal the End away from their great mechs known as Titans, saving Sonic's world from certain destruction. The remaining Ancients upload the memories to a digital system they made called cyberspace, and some of them flee to a place called the Mystic Ruins. There they found and built a shrine to the Master Emerald, setting the Chaos Emeralds up around it. Over the course of hundreds and thousands of years, the Ancients evolved into the Chow. About 10,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Babylon Rogues, Jet the Hawk, Wave the Swallow, and Storm the Albatross arrive on Earth. By now, society had been beginning to develop, so a higher power sent from the deepest point of the universe sent 7 mythical beasts to aid in their developing. Among their ranks was a kitsune named Kitsuneko and a dragon named Trakton. They worked to aid in the development of civilization, and they did greatly. Many tribes began to build up, specifically the Great Echidna tribe, but greed was festering in the heart of Trakton. On the floating island where the creatures lived, there was a purple crystal that contained great power, as it caused the island to float. Trakton took and absorbed this crystal, and it burned his skills, turning him black and purple, and it turned his powers of light and healing into corruption and death. The other mythical creatures tried to stop him, but his power was simply too great, and one of them fell to Trakton's new malice. But then they realized the island was going to hit the ground soon. Everyone fled except for the kitsune, who was forced to jump from a great height with nothing but a shield of her own light powers to protect her. With the fall of the island, the order of the creatures fell too, and the world had lost their protectors. When Kitsuneko woke, she found herself in a small village of Arctic foxes, who had nursed her back to health. She pledged her allegiance to these foxes, and after a year of aiding them, she set off on her own. All of the other creatures had forsaken their duty protecting the world, but she would not. She remained faithful and helped the world grow by herself, especially since Trakton was still out there. With the fallen creatures, there was nobody to protect the world from its own greed. For example, the once great Echidna clan saw the great power of the Master Emerald and the Chaos Emeralds, so despite the warnings of his daughter Tikal, her father ran into the Emerald Shrine to take them for himself, injuring Tikal and killing all the Chow who lived there in the process. This greatly injured the creature who lived there known as Chaos, who was a mutated Chow. He unleashed his wrath upon the Echidna tribe using the Chaos Emeralds, wiping everyone there out and raising the place where the shrine was, known as Angel Island, up into the sky. The Chaos Emeralds were then sent away after Chaos used them, ready to be taken by anyone for their own desires. About 2,000 years before the next era, an alien race known as the Black Arms began to prepare invading Earth by dropping a giant temple in the Glyphic Canyon, and an ancient society creates combat robots powered by the Chaos Emeralds, one of whom was named Emerald. 1,000 years ago, Kitsuneko, who was still wandering the world, encountered 3 animals in the forest with their skin gray and eyes purple. She used her powers to free them and asked the one animal who stayed, a hedgehog named Spike, what had happened. He told her that a giant black dragon corrupted him, causing Kitsuneko's blood to run cold. She bade him to lead her where he got corrupted, and sure enough, her fears were true. Trakton was back and had built up a huge army of corrupted souls. Kitsuneko knew she had to protect the world from Trakton's new onslaught, so she gathered those who remained from every society and established a kingdom in the Great Mountains known as Vialvaria. There, Kitsuneko enlisted the help of Varro the Vulture, and together with Spike, they led everyone in the secure home. At about this time, Varro, who was a great sorcerer, harnessed a mysterious and powerful red energy in a stone and could be used to manipulate space and time. He called it the Malaxum, but things wouldn't always go well in this kingdom. Shortly after Spike was declared Kitsuneko's successor, Trakton and his corrupted armies discovered Vialvaria and immediately began to attack it. The siege was extremely brutal and many died, but at the last moment, Kitsuneko sacrificed her own life by using all of her magic and energy to seal Trakton away in an artifact that locked his soul away in a mysterious dimension called the Corrupted World. The artifact was then sealed away in a deep, dark dungeon under the Destroyed Kingdom, only being able to open if one goes in there with the Malaxum and another item known as the Dragon Key. But the story of Kitsuneko and Trakton was far from over. Trakton's seal would grow weaker and weaker over time, causing his power to grow and make King Purple Beam shoot out of the ground. The attracting's power grows so much that the seal would eventually be destroyed, so Kitsuneko was sent back as a ghost, warning all of the artists around the land to make murals and caves to warn their descendants about their incoming doom. With attracting gone, all of the corrupted souls were freed, so when Spike took over Valvaria, all he had left was a destroyed kingdom with the remnants of Valvaria's people, along with those free corrupted souls. But he was able to rebuild Valvaria outside of the now forgotten kingdom, spreading wealth and prosperity throughout the land. But not all was right. Varro, filled with jealousy at Spike being the king, began to practice the dark arts and build up a cult of Attractant worshippers in hopes that they would aid them to overthrow the kingdom. They would attack the city many times, but Spike and his army of faithful soldiers would always beat them, in no short thanks to Spike's powers of super speed, the first of a line of many superpowered hedgehogs. But one day, Varro and his soldiers began to use the Malaxian to wreak havoc across the city, setting the whole thing ablaze. The Spike, in an act of great sacrifice, grabbed the Vulture Stone and yelled two mysterious words that came to him: Chaos Control! With that, all of the Shades, Varro, and Spike disappeared into the corrupted world, leaving Spike's queen Lithia to rule in his stead. Over the next 1,000 years, society continued to progress to more like we know it today, with many different nations of humans forming and all of the animals moving to their own separate islands. There was peace on both fronts, and anytime there was trouble, the line of superpowered hedgehogs continued with one every 50 years to quell the trouble and restore the peace. But 50 years before the next era, a professor named Joe Robotnik traveled to Angel Island to do research and study the Master Emerald. After this, with great inspiration from the travels, he built the Space Colony Ark, a giant space station built for research and housing the world's greatest scientists, military personnel, and important people using money from a powerful nation known as the United Federation. Everything was going well until the United Federation's military branch, GUN, Guardian Units of Nations, forced Joe to create an earth-shattering weapon called the Eclipse Kitten on the front of the Ark in order to defend the world against alien threats with the power of the Chaos Emeralds. Then they forced him to make a cure to all illnesses. Joe accepted this for a personal reason. His granddaughter Maria Robotnik, who lived in the Ark, suffered under a terrible illness called NIDS. Gerald tried his hand at this by creating a life form who would be completely immune to illnesses, an ultimate life form. But his initial attempt with the biolist proved to be too unstable, so he forced himself to make a deal with an alien warlord whose black comet crossed the Earth every 50 years, Black Doom. Thanks to his DNA, he'll be able to create the ultimate life form, but in return, when he and his black arms come back to Earth in 50 years to invade, he will be on their side. Using some inspiration from murals he saw on Angel Island, Jerry was finally able to make the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow remained aboard the Ark to be studied to find the cure Joe was so desperately searching for. While he was there, he formed a deep friendship with Maria, and they would often spend time together admiring the stars, wondering what Earth was like.
Shadow, what do you think it's like on Earth?
The professor said his life's work was dedicated to all of those who live down there. He once told that the reason for his existence was making people happy through the power of science.
Shadow.
Maria, I just don't know anything anymore. I often wonder why I was created, what my purpose is for being here. Maybe if I go down there, I will find the answers. Maybe. Maria.
But things would soon take a tragic turn. Gunn, worried that Joe's experiments were getting out of control, launched a raid upon the Ark, killing all who were involved in the experiments. That included Maria. Before she died, Maria sealed Shadow in an escape pod down to Earth, telling him these final words. Maria!
What?
Shadow, I beg of you, please,
Maria!
do it for me. For all the people on that planet. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
And with that, Shadow was sent down, where Gunn found him and sealed him deep inside Prison Island. Joe was then captured, and when he heard of Maria's death, it completely broke him. While Gunn continued to force him to do research, he secretly reprogrammed Shadow's memories to enact his revenge. He would get all the Chaos Emeralds into the Ark, forcing him to crash down to Earth and obliterate the whole planet. But soon after completing this plot, he was executed, and the Ark was left abandoned for 50 years, and Joe's plot remained forgotten by all. About 4 to 6 years later, an Arctic fox named Carol with ice powers was born to a couple of Arctic foxes in the snow. The elders of his village warned him to keep it secret from everyone, so he did, but he still practiced it on his own, hoping to become a strong protector of his village. At about the same time, a little perm kitten named Esther was taken into an orphanage in the village of Jolania. 4 years later, a new hero entered the scene. His name was Sonic the Hedgehog. One day, the super fast, chili dog-loving, freedom-living hedgehog was running around South Island when he heard from a few flickies that this evil mad scientist named Dr. Eggman was terrorizing the area by kidnapping all the flickies and turning them into his own robots named Badniks. Sonic wouldn't have this, so he quickly led an action-packed and sometimes painful mission to stop him. He promptly did so with the help of the Chaos Emeralds, and this started the two's long and bitter rivalry. Shortly after, Eggman realized the only way to beat Sonic is with his own Sonic, so he built a robotic copy named Metal Sonic to beat him. After this copy kidnapped a girl named Amy Rose, Sonic quickly put him in his place and saved the girl, giving her a lifelong crush. Then Sonic arrives on West Side Island, where he saved a little fox named Tails from two bullies who made fun of him for his two tails. Inspired, the fox begins following Sonic, and thanks to his incredible intelligence, is able to become a great sidekick as they stop Eggman and his new robot double, Mecha Sonic Mark I. But this time, Eggman built a huge robotics space station called the Death Egg, and it is only by using the Chaos Emeralds and transforming into a new powerful form called Super Sonic, and that Sonic can survive the encounter. But Eggman was not done yet. His Death Egg crashed onto Angel Island, where he met the powerful kid named Knuckles, the last Echidna and guardian of the Master Emerald. Eggman tricked him into helping rebuild the Death Egg and stole the Master Emerald, and it is only with Sonic's help that he can get it back and fight off Mecha Sonic Mark II. Eggman, something tells me all your robot doubles aren't working. Anyway, Knuckles grew a friendly rivalry with Sonic, and was thanks to that he was able to come out of his shell and meet people off Angel Island. He even helped fight Eggman and Metal Sonic on his own journey with the help of a group called the Chaotix: Vector the Crocodile, Espia the Chameleon, and Charmy Bee. At about this time, Esther Perm, who is being bullied constantly by the citizens of Joleninia for being a cat in a village with anti-feline laws, specifically by two tigers named Ari and Cade, met an older dog named Jolene who would become her best friend and guardian. The two would grow extremely close, exploring all around the area and laughing and crying together. Jolene, a master inventor, even gave Esther powerful gauntlets to defend herself and turn invisible with. Back to Sonic, one, unfortunately relevant, masterpiece later, Dr. Eggman, with the help of a bounty hunter named Fang the Hunter, invaded a place called the North Star Islands. There they bossed the island's guardian named Trip around, who thankfully hid all of her relatives. But Sonic and his friends heard about this, so they come to the islands. After befriending Trip, they defeated Eggman, Fang, and a huge black dragon awakened from out of a stone called the Black Onyx, all thanks to the special powers given to the Chaos Emeralds on these islands. Around this time, a crime member under the leadership of the snow leopard Magnopus begins to claim absolute power in the dark underground of many nations. But now, Eggman turns his eyes back to the Master Emerald for a new plan of world domination. Dr. Eggman released Chaos, who was sealed inside of the Master Emerald, and began feeding it all of the Chaos Emeralds that he tricked the Sonic heroes into getting. The Chaos betrayed Eggman once he got all of the Emeralds, transforming into perfect chaos, destroying the city known as Station Square and absorbing all of the energy of the Chaos Emeralds, leaving them empty and useless. Thanks to Sonic, the spirit of Tikal, and the will of many people, the Chaos Emeralds regained their power. Sonic then used them to transform into Super Sonic and defeat Perfect Chaos, cloning it and allowing the spirits of Chaos and Tikal to ascend to the afterlife.
All's well that ends well, right?
But Dr. Eggman would not remain defeated. After discovering his grandfather Joe Robotnik's journal, he broke into Prison Island and awakened Shadow the Hedgehog. In return for freeing him, he promised to grant him any desire, so Eggman told him to help him take over the world, but Shadow would just used him for the revenge plot Joe put in his brain. So with the help of Rouge the Bat, a secret government spy, they began stealing the Chaos Emeralds from Gun to place them into the Space Colony Ark, and in doing so, the military confused Shadow for Sonic, so they captured him and placed him in Prison Island, forcing his friends, Tails and Amy, to save him. This put them in direct conflict with Shadow, Eggman, and Rouge, who were on Prison Island getting the final few emeralds they needed. After some encounters, Tails and Amy were able to free Sonic, and Shadow, Rouge, and Eggman were able to get 3 more Chaos Emeralds thanks to Shadow's unexpected heroism in saving Rouge, bringing their total to 6. With this amount of emeralds, Eggman was able to use the Eclipse Kitten on the Ark to fire a warning shot on the moon, warning everyone of what he was planning to do with these words.
Citizens of Earth, lend me your ears and listen to me very carefully. My name is Dr. Eggman, the world's greatest scientist, and soon to be the world's greatest ruler. Now witness the beginning of the greatest empire of all time.
Sonic, Tails, and Amy were watching from down below, knowing that they had to stop him and that they were also in possession of the last Chaos Emerald Eggman needed. So they, with the help of Knuckles the Echidna, began to make their way to Eggman's desert pyramid in order to go to space from there. But once they arrived, things went south as Dr. Eggman had captured Amy, forcing Sonic to trade the emerald for her life. But thankfully, Tails had made a fake emerald that he was planning to use to destroy the cannon, allowing Sonic to give him that instead of...
Oh! You thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Tails!
Because you just told me, Fox Boy. Now, for a little space ride. The capsule clears the colony bad.
I'm counting on you, Tails. And Amy, take care of yourself.
Farewell, Sonic the Hedgehog.
But as Sonic was shot out into space, he, having the fake Chaos Emerald and having seen Shadow use it earlier, used Chaos Control to teleport back onto the Ark, and after encounter with Shadow, was able to use the fake Emerald to prevent the Eclipse Cannon from firing. But at the same time, Eggman placed the last real Chaos Emerald into the Ark, forcing the Revenge Pot from Gerald into motion.
What's that on the screen?
This is a death sentence for every human being on Earth. If my calculations are correct, the space colony Ark will impact the Earth in 27 minutes and 53 seconds. All of you will be destroyed, along with your beloved planet Earth. I plan to give you a taste of my revenge once all the 7 Chaos Emeralds are collected. Once I initiate this program, it cannot be disabled. All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel my loss and despair.
Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Eggman, and Rouge now had to team up to save the world, going deep into the cannon's core and using the Master Emerald, which Knuckles had on him, to nullify the Chaos Emeralds that were forcing the Ark down to Earth. But they could not do it alone, as the Bylizards showed up at the last minute to put a halt to their plan. But far above them, at the top of the Space Colony Ark, Shadow remained, watching as the whole world was going to end, his revenge for Maria finally coming to fruition. But Amy Rose saw Shadow there, and with great courage she decided to say something.
We need you! Please help us!
It's all going according to plan. There's no reason for me to help them. Besides, there's no way to save anyone.
There has to be! I know that people fight over the most trivial things. Some people may be selfish, like the professor said. But they're basically good if they try their best and never give up on their wishes. They always have a reason to be happy. That's why you should help them out. Saving them is a good thing. Shadow, I beg you, please do it for them. Give them a chance.
Shadow, I beg of you, please, do it for me. For
Maria!
the future, for all people who live on that planet, give them a chance to be happy. Let them live for their dreams. Shadow, I know you can do it. That's the reason why you were brought into this world. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
I promised her. And I must keep that promise. That's what Maria wished for. I've got to go now. I have to keep my promise to Maria and you.
Shadow knew what he had to do. He rushed down to the cannon's core and he fought with the Bylizard that also had Gerald's revenge inside of him, Ultimate Lifeform against Ultimate Lifeform prototype. As he did this, Sonic and Knuckles made their way to the mock Master Emerald Shrine Gerald made from his travels, and there, they quelled the Chaos Emeralds, presumably saving the world. But it was not enough. When the Bylizard saw this happen, it used its own Chaos Control, was forcing the Space Colony Ark down to the planet itself. All hope seemed lost until... Sonic and Shadow exchange blows with the final hazard, each blow a step closer to fulfilling Maria's true promise. Alas, with one final utterance of chaos control, the Bio-Lizard was defeated and the Space Coniard was placed back in orbit, but this came at a great cost.
Maria, this is what you wanted, right? This is my promise I made to you.
And so the story of Sonic Adventure 2 is ended. Shortly after this, Sonic met Cream and Cheese, a friendly rabbit and her pet Chow, and together with his friends, they rescued her mom Vanilla, who was captured, and defeated Eggman yet again. Then, Eggman's greatest creation, Metal Sonic, rebelled against his creator, imprisoned him, and transformed his own body into an upgraded version dubbed Neo Metal Sonic that is able to shapeshift and copy others' biodata, and Eggman's persona challenges Sonic and his friends that he would take over the world. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles go to stop him. Amy, Cream, and their friend Big the Cat go to get their friends Froggy and Chocola back. Team Chaotix go at the behest of Eggman, and Rouge, who is digging around in one of Eggman's abandoned bunkers, discovered Shadow, who is still alive, sealed away in a machine but having lost all of his memories, along with E123 Omega, a powerful robot with a vendetta against Eggman. The three decided to team up, and thus the four teams went out to stop Metal Sonic, whom they presumed to be Eggman. During their journeys, Metal Sonic managed to copy all of their biodata and that of Chaos, allowing himself, when all the Sonic heroes assembled together on Metal's Egg Fleet, to transform into Metal Overlord. But Sonic transformed into Super Sonic once again thanks to the Chaos Emeralds everyone brought, and put Metal Sonic in his place, because
we're Sonic heroes!
But soon after, things would take a dramatic turn. Black Doom and his army of the Black Arms soon arrive again, with the 50 years having passed since he made his deal with Gerald. Black Doom told Shadow that he knew about his past, and he used that to manipulate him and to obtain the Chaos Emeralds. He does so, sometimes helping Sonic and his friends, and sometimes hurting them in support of Black Doom or Eggman, who had used Shadow while he was unconscious to build many copies of him called Shadow Androids. But soon, after a long journey, Shadow gets his memories back, defeats Black Doom, and resolves to move on from his past. After a moving experience with the Gizzard Emerald, who Eggman had found and tried to use to take over the worlds, Eggman made the comm robot Gemerald based on him, but he went out of control. After Eggman was defeated, Gemerald was found and adjusted by Tails, where he went to live on with Cream and her family as their protector. Then, the Princess Blaziken of the Soul Dimension arrived in Sonic's world in the pursuit of the Soul Emeralds, powerful emeralds that are equivalent of the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic's world that were stolen by Eggman and his counterpart from Blaze's world, Eggman... Oh. Why? Anyway, Blaze gets familiar with Sonic's world and his friends, particularly Amy and Cream, allowing her to trust them to help her get her emeralds back. Sonic and Blaze then use the respective emeralds to transform into Super Sonic and Burning Blaze, and they work together to defeat the Eggman, and Blaze returned to her own with the Soul Emeralds, but she would sometimes use them to travel back to Sonic's world in a case of grave necessity or just on a simple visit. Around that time, a telekinetic hedgehog from the future named Silver arrived to stop a threat from the past from destroying his time. Then he got acquainted with Sonic and his friends, and since then kept returning to the past, as his future would always be affected by some problem then. This was greatly frustrating for him, but at least he got to spend more time with his friends. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy raced against the Babylon Rogues for a Chaos Emerald, but it was a trap set by Dr. Eggman to steal the treasures from the Rogues. Afterward, during one of Dr. Eggman's attacks on the world, Sonic arrived, and turning Super put a stop to his plans. It was all a trick, as Eggman captures Super Sonic and uses energy to divide the planet into 7 pieces, forcing Dark Gaia to awaken and allowing Eggman to try and harvest its energy. The energy of the kid Eggman used to awaken Dark Gaia had a horrible impact on Sonic, as it drained the Chaos Emeralds of their energy and injected Sonic with Dark Gaia's negative energy, transforming him into the Werehog. Eggman then thrust him into space with nothing in his way to establish his terrifying theme park of Eggman Land. This action would have unforeseen consequences on Carol the Arctic Fox, who is still living a normal life in his village. When Eggman split the world, the village was cut in half, sending all the Arctic Foxes plunging into the abyss where Dark Gaia lay. Carol tried his best to stop this with ice powers, but he could not, and his whole village was destroyed, and all the foxes beside him were dead. Carol, completely defeated and feeling utterly powerless, made his way to the nearby forest and passed out. When he woke up, he came face to face with the spirit of Tracked the Dragon under the form of a dark being called the Shade King. This creature offered greater power for Carol, but in return he must do something. Kill Shadow the Hedgehog. Carol, blinded by grief, accepted immediately. Then, I was lifted up into the air, like I was being pulled by an invisible rope. I looked down and saw the creature. He was raising both his arms high in the air, and a black energy was being shot out of them. I felt like I was being drained of all my energy, not like I was gaining anything. But I loved that feeling. I sat down, feeling sick and unnatural. Carol had received the black ice that was nearly indestructible but heavily addicting to use. The Shade King then ordered Carol to stay there and train up his powers until he ordered him to stop and fulfill his mission. Meanwhile, Sonic just landed back on the planet and encountered the creature Chip, who had lost his memories. The two then agreed to work together to fix the mess Eggman made, and they do so by restoring the powers of the Chaos Emeralds by placing them into the Gaian temples around the world. Once they did so, Chip regained his memories and discovered that he was, in fact, like Gaia. So he, with the help of the Super Sonic, defeated Dark Gaia and sealed him away once again, and in the process freeing Sonic of his werehog form. Soon after, Dr. Eggman traveled to Planet Wisp, home of a race of special aliens who had incredible powers. There he began to build his interstellar amusement park and use the energy of the Wisp there to make a powerful weapon called... Really? Sega? Again? Why? Anyway, Sonic and Tails team up with the Wisp, defeated Eggman, and freed the Wisp, sending many of them and their planet back into space, though some of them decided to remain on Earth and help out Sonic and his friends. But at the same time, something very tragic occurred in the village of Jolene. One day, Esther the little perp and Jolene the dog were out exploring, until it got past the village's curfew and the doors remained shut. Esther was worried, but Jolene decided the two would camp out for the night. They were both excited until in the forest they encountered two of Esther's bullies, Ari and Cade. Tensions were high, and Ari's hatred grew deeper as he looked at the little girl, clutching Jolene's arm. He couldn't stand seeing Esther being treated as equal to himself or anyone else in the village because, well, I'll let Esther herself tell the story.
She's still a cat! Ari screeched. And cats killed my father, so I must kill her!
Then, he reached into his pocket and grabbed a pistol. Jolene and I froze. No one expected Ari to go that far. Then my friend whispered to me, "Listen, when I tell you to, I want you to run as fast as you can in the opposite direction. Run!" Then she tackled Ari with all her strength. I ran through the forest until I found a body on the ground, soaked in blood. I went to the head of it. Sure enough, it was Jolene, with a great gunshot wound in her chest, out of which blood was fatally pouring. I knelt in front of her. "S," she said, her eyes slowly closing. "Remember, use your gauntlets the right way." She coughed up blood. "Yes," I said, grasping her hand. "I will always remember what you taught me." "Not just that," she said. "Always pursue the way of justice, but more than that, the way of mercy and love." She smiled as her eyes closed for the last time. "I love you, Esther. Always remember that." Then she passed away under the stars. Esther made her way back to the village, but there she discovered that Ari and Kate framed her for Jolene's death, as they were very powerful in the village. Esther then turned to the city to survive and make money, and there she found that her gauntlets were very powerful in the crime life of the city, particularly with bounty hunting. Esther balanced this with promise to Jolene by saying that she'd only target the bad people, but eventually greed got the better of her, and she began killing even innocent people. The guilt was heavy on her, but she couldn't stop. After all, she had no choice. Her life remained this way for a long while. Around this time, Shadow the Hedgehog was beginning to have strange nightmares, telling him that something was on the Ark. Distressed, he went to sleep out of a spaceship to go there, and thanks to the help of Rouge, Omega, and the gun commander named Abraham, he was able to. As Shadow was wandering on the Ark, surprise, it's Sonic's birthday. Many of his friends gathered together to celebrate until Eggman, who after his last defeat discovered a dimensional anomaly called the Time Eater. After taking control of it, he found his past self, and together they made a plan to rewrite the timeline. Sonic and his friends were sucked into the Time Eater, and together with a past version of himself, he restored the world that the Eggman had ruined, and he defeated them along with the Time Eater. At the same time as Sonic was sucked into white space, Shadow was too. Thanks to the distortions caused by the Time Eater, Black Doom, who was regenerating in a larva in Space Colony Arc, was resurrection, and he taunted Shadow to awaken his true dark power as he restored the world on his own. But thanks to Maria and Gerald, who were brought back temporarily thanks to the Time Eater, Shadow was not consumed by Black Doom's anger and evil, and with Black Doom's own powers, Shadow defeated him. After those time-traveling expeditions, Eggman found the Lost Hex, a floating island occupied by a mysterious group of Zeti called the Deadly Six, who have the power to control robots with their minds. Eggman worked with them, but they soon betrayed him, and he was forced to work with Sonic and Tails to stop them before they sucked all the life energy from out of the world. They do so, and after a brief brawl with Eggman, Sonic had saved the world again. At the same time, Shadow encountered Carol the Arctic Fox, whose skin had turned completely black from his abuse of the Black Ice, and beat him. He's planning to leave him there, having spared his life, but something compelled him to stay with him in his hour of need, for Carol was crying on the ground and scared. Shadow reluctantly obeyed his conscience for the sake of Maria, and he regularly met with Carol for a year, training him in the ways of combat, made him renounce the Black Ice, and after giving him retractable ice skates, taught him how to skate and place his ice at the same time, allowing him to traverse extremely fast. Once the year had elapsed, the two departed from each other as friends. Esther, meanwhile, was only getting worse. One night, she was sitting in the tavern when she encountered the bombast Magnopus, who forced her with intimidation to work for him.
"Listen, kid, do you know who is at the center for every crime you ever pulled? You know the motive behind every bounty you've ever taken? It's me! I, Magnopus, rule this world, if you like it or not. You are the one bounty hunter who is not yet in my grasp. As a hunter, you either do what I say or perish, intentionally or unintentionally. So, are you left me, or are you not?"
With that, the two went into Esther's old village to, as Magnopus put it, deliver justice. They went straight into the courtroom in front of the new judges, Ari and Cade. Esther, despite being hardened from her many years as a bounty hunter, was still extremely nervous what Magnopus might do. But with 2 stomps of his feet, all of his bounty hunters entered the village, slaughtered everyone there, and burnt the whole thing to the ground. Esther was filled with shock and regret, but Magnopus used this to his advantage by using this as manipulation to force her to work for him. He now had the most powerful bounty hunter in the world under his finger. But not all who lived in the village were slain. A lone wolf named Vivian, who was slightly older than Esther at the time, survived, but she was soon captured by bounty hunters and forced to work for them. Later, a young, energetic, intelligent, yet lonely red pen named Rex met a monkey named Gus, and they would bond over their love for inventing vehicles. Gus would even teach Rex how to fly in his father's jet, and would be very skilled at it. About a year later, Eggman, who had just been a jackal mercenary named Infinite and acquired the Phantom Ruby, a powerful gem that had the power to create illusions, combined the two and made a nearly unstoppable warrior who nearly killed Sonic. Eggman captured him, and in 6 months the world fell to his rule. The Resistance did give a fight though, especially thanks to a group called the Diamond Cutters. This had 5 members, most notable of whom were Mimic the Octopus and Whisper the Wolf. One day, Mimic told them of an Eggman base they should destroy, but it was a trap. Mimic had betrayed his team, and the Shadow Androids cut off all the Diamond Cutters but one, Whisper the Wolf, who was out scouting the area. She gathered up the wisps of all the other members, and she used a prototype Wispon called the Versatile Wispon to harness the powers of all the wisps to continue to fight Eggman on her own. During the war, she was known as the Guardian Angel. Despite this though, 99.9% of the world was now under Eggman's rule, but thanks to the help of a new recruit named Gadget and the return of classic Sonic, Sonic and his friends were able to beat Eggman and return the light of hope to the world. However, thanks to the war and Eggman's fall, Magnopus' crime empire grew exponentially, and Gun was all but diminished. But the effects of the war were not over. Eggman's army still remained, and they were beginning to get organized. Sonic had to find out who was doing this, and to do so, he had to find the Doctor. But it turned out that he lost his memories and was now living a new life as a kind inventor named Mr. Tinker. So who was organizing these armies? Well, it was none other than Neo Metal Sonic, who, after having the rebellious purged from his programming, was upgraded during the war. But it was too late for him to fight in it, so he began taking over the world on his own. Sonic had to gather all of his friends together to stop this new threat, including some ones he just met. One was Tangle, a fun-loving lemur who desired nothing but adventure and a good time, who had powers that allowed her to stretch her tail extremely far, and the other was the Guardian Angel Whisper the Wolf. These two, along with many of Sonic's friends, worked together to take down Neo. He transformed himself into his super form, and then to a special Master Overlord form, both due to the powers of the Master Emerald. But Sonic and the rest of his friends were able to defeat him. During Neo's return, Tangle and Whisper were able to meet and become good friends, so it was no surprise that when Whisper arrived at Tangle's village, warning her and her best friend Jewel the Beetle about Mimic who was out on the loose, she wanted to help put an end to him once and for all. Initially, Whisper said no, fearing the loss of another friend, but thanks to her wisp, she agreed and opened up about her past to Tangle, and they were able to defeat Mimic. When they had him down though, Whisper was prepared to take his life, but being stopped by Tangle, she relented, spared him, and the two placed him in jail. But he was soon to be let out and cause all sorts of trouble until he was last slain by his own bomb. Shortly after Tangle and Whisper's initial journey, an extremely intelligent Eggman fanboy named Dr. Starline kidnapped Mr. Tinker, and with the help of Metal Sonic, he restored Eggman's memories and helped him with his next plan, the Metal Virus. It could transform anyone into a mindless robot slave called a Zombot and force them to infect others, taking over the whole world for Eggman. This plague was highly successful, even infecting many of Sonic's friends, but Eggman would soon lose control of it. Starline would attempt to gain control back with the help of the Deadly Six, but they would betray him, forcing him and Eggman to seek the help of Sonic and his friends before they took over the world. After firing Starline, Eggman took his powerful jewel called the Warp Topaz along with all the Chaos Emeralds to allow Sonic and Silver to transform into their super forms in the nick of time. Silver uses telekinesis to grab all of the metal bars, and Sonic supercharged it away into the sun, where it could never hurt anyone again. During the plague, though, tragedy struck Rex the Red Panda's village. The Zombots invaded the city, infecting everyone there, including Rex's friend Gus. Rex flew away on a jet as the last survivor, and not before Gus gave him a powerful family heirloom to keep safe, the Malaxium. Once the plague ended, Rex searched everywhere for Gus to return the stone, but when he found him, he was slain by 2 goons who were hunting after him. This forced Rex to become the Stone's sole guardian and to carry on with his life alone, one step at a time. He would do well at this, but a desire with someone else to connect remained deep on his heart. Slightly before the plague started, Knuckles, the commander of the Resistance during the Eggman War, disbanded it, but Amy Rose reformed it as the Restoration, a non-profit group focused on helping people. But after the Metal Virus fell, the stress of the work grew too much for Amy, so Tangle's friend, Jewel the Beetle, promptly took over and did 2 important things. First, she established Diamond Cutters, the Restoration Strike Team named after Whisper's team of old. The team consisted of Tangle, Whisper, and their leader, Lanolin the Sheep, a no-nonsense soldier who wanted nothing more than to get things done. Secondly, she, seeing Gun nearly fallen, decided to pour in resources and materials into restoring it. Thus she agreed to become business partners with Commander Abraham, and the two would join together as the new leaders of Gunner, the Guardian Units of Nations Restored. But just a little bit before the Diamond Cutters were formed, Dr. Starline, who was growing tired of the same old story of Eggman making a plan and Sonic showing up to stop it, decided to break it, but to do so he would need to control both sides of the narrative. First, he had to create his heroes. The rebellious, violent Tenrec with lightning powers named Surge to parody Sonic, whose only real desire was to kill him, and an obsessive, intelligent Fennec Fox with an aquanetic backpack named Kit to parody Tails and support Surge. But to create the two, he had to get live organisms and brainwash them into becoming the people he wanted them to be, causing a lot of psychological trauma as a side effect. The two would do whatever Starline said as part of his plan to overthrow Eggman, but they soon started to get suspicious of their origins. Once they found out the truth, though, they decided to continue with Starline's plan in order to overthrow him along with killing Sonic to destroy the world that rejected them. So once Starline took over a major Eggman base, Surge fought with Sonic, Kit fought Tails, and Starline fought Eggman, but the originals proved much more powerful than their copies. So after 2 long drawn-out battles, they finally beat them and won the day. Starline was presumably killed, but Surge and Kit would remain as active forces. Originally, they just tried to kill Sonic again, but after Surge experienced some heroism of her own, she grew conflicted. She then resolved to try and be a hero, yet still seek after her own interest of putting an end to Sonic. After their battle with Surge and Kit, Sonic and Tails crash landed on an island made entirely out of scrap robot parts and old Eggman planes called Scrapnik Island. There they met a group of old Eggman robots who were now friendly towards Sonic and Tails, calling themselves Scrapniks. But something dark snapped in one of the hearts of the Scrapniks, Megasonic Mark II, and after fighting with and healing his pain, Sonic and Tails managed to fix their plane and escape the island. Around that time, the Malaxium was stolen from Rex by 2 bounty hunters, so he began to traverse the world to find out more about it in order to reclaim it for his deceased friend. Eventually, he discovered the murals of Kitsunego, therein finding that they contained an Arctic fox with ice powers. Shortly after that, Rex had a brief encounter with Esther the Perm, who now called herself the Mistress of the Wind. Once those events passed, Dr. Eggman arrived at the Starfall Islands in order to try and harness their power with his new AI, Sage, but after interacting with the cyberspace, Dr. Eggman was sucked inside of it. There he discovered that Sage had been given a physical form and he tried to use it to escape cyberspace, though Sage was trying to protect him by keeping him locked there. First, Sonic, Tails, and Amy crash landing on the island. Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, who arrived there thanks to a strange rune on Angel Island, were trapped, and Sonic had to save them. He heard a mysterious voice tell him to defeat the Titans to save his friends, so he gathered the Chaos Emeralds that lay there and does so, beating Giganto, Wyvern, and Knight. But it turns out that this was a trick, as the voice was really the end, the interplanetary monster who destroyed the home of the ancients and who now wants to destroy Sonic's world. Sonic, teaming up with his friends, Eggman and Sage, infusing his super form with cyber energy thanks to the Coco, who had the digital memories of the ancients, Master King, unlocking a new form called Super Sonic 2, thanks to which he was able to crush the end and save the world once again, and Sage and Eggman went home as daughter and father. I'm aware that there are 2 endings to this game, but they don't really change much in terms of how the story ends, so the canon ending in the Blizzard timeline is the second ending called Another Story. And quite frankly, this ending is much, much cooler. Thus ends the modern era of the Sonic timeline, and we now enter into... Our story begins with Shadow the Hedgehog, who had spawned many purple beams shoot out of the sky recently around the Great Mountain, so he began to follow them to see what was going on in order for him to fulfill his promise to Maria. There he found the Forgotten Kingdom of Bielvaria, and after exploring around for a bit, he spotted 3 souls who were corrupted by the purple beam. Then he spotted the ghost of Kitsuneko hovering near a cave, so he followed her inside, where he spotted one of her murals. He recognized the same fox Rex saw as Carol, and he raced off to find him. When he did, he told him all of this, and he agreed to help him get to the bottom of it, thinking that this could help them figure out why he had the strange ice powers he did. The two then ran to another purple beam coming from a nearby village. After they got there, they saw that many people from the village were corrupted. Carol and Shadow tried fighting them off, but when Carol started to use his ice powers, he discovered that they cured the people there of their corruption. After that discovery, Carol was suddenly knocked to the ground by an invisible warrior, Esther the Perm. She was sent there by Magnopus to kill Carol, and he knew that Carol was the one thing that could do the corruption. He did this because he was seeking to awaken Trek in hopes of gaining the power he might offer him. He, in fact, was the one who stole Rex and stowed in hopes to free him. But Carol and Shadow combined and managed to beat her, and as they tried to interrogate her, they spotted a jet crashing into the forest. The two set off and saved the pilot, who was revealed to be Rex the Red Panda. He marveled at seeing Carol and explained to them about how he once had the Malaxium and his connection to the mural Shadow saw. The 3 then went back to Esther to see if she knew anything more. When they did, Esther now saw a chance to bring them all to Magnopus and destroy the one person who could stop her. So she offered to lead them to Magnopus' base and give them back the Malaxium. Ford prepared to set off, but at the last minute, Shadow had to depart on an errand for Rouge. He put Carol in charge and left. The next day, the 3 went off to the Great Mountains. After a while of trying and failing to traverse quickly, Rex made himself and Esther ice skates like Carol had, and the 3 skated off over the mountains, giving Esther reluctant joy and a connection with these 2. The next day, Esther received a vision from Kitsuneko confronting her over her past. She began to want to repent from her evil deeds, but she could not. She was too afraid. The next day, the three finally arrived at Magnopus' base. They decided to sneak in, so Esther grabbed Carol and Rex's arms and turned all three of them invisible. When they went in, they all split up, and Carol found out that Magnopus, in searching for Carol, had killed every other Arctic fox in the world in order to find him. This sent Carol into a rage, partially igniting his black eyes. Then the three reunited and decided to steal the Malaxian from Magnopus' neck. But at the last minute, Esther betrayed the two, and Magnopus forced them into the midst of an army of bounty hunters, giving Esther a sense of deep regret as she took off with Magnopus to the next destination. Carol and Rex fought off the bounty hunters, the intense rage Carol was feeling now awakening his black eyes. Rex warned him to stop, but Carol, who was now addicted to the black ice again, would not listen and began to chase after Esther and Magnopus, with Rex falling close behind on his rocket boosted hang glider. Esther and Magnopus arrived at a giant tree where it was said that Varro formed the Malaxian and where it was at its strongest. They entered the tree and progressed until they arrived at a machine. Carol and Rex then arrived, and Magnopus sent his elite warrior, Refaxo, along with Esther to fight them, but Esther did not know what to do. Then a purple beam formed from out of the machine, creating the Dragon Key. Magnopus tried to grab it, but it burned his skin, so he forced Esther to do it. When she did, her hands were burned, but Magnopus grabbed the key and used the Malaxian to teleport himself and Esther away. Carol burst out of the room, filled with anger, chasing after Magnopus' helicopter, where Esther, forced by her conscience to make a choice, finally rejected Magnopus and the life he offered. Magnopus snapped at Esther, but at that moment, Carol brought the helicopter down. Once it landed, Carol confronted Esther and threatened her life for her treachery, but Esther apologized. Then, Carol remembered the time someone else spared his life. "Look, I can help you." To this day, nobody knows exactly why Carol spared Esther. Even if you ask him yourself, he could not answer. Maybe a sense of pity mixed with a sense of remembrance changed his mind. But sometimes a change of heart in the most lost, corrupt people cannot be explained. Rex found Esther among the ruins and tended to her wounds, after which she opened about her past to him and he listened. Then the two set off to save Carol, who was now deep under the Forgotten Kingdom, for Magnopus had opened a hidden door inside the mural and Carol followed him down. When the two found each other, they fought, and Magnopus used Carol's rage and addiction to the Black Ice against him by using him to destroy the artifact Tracton was sealed in, finally freeing the dragon. Carol immediately passed out, Tracton corrupted Magnopus, and he was going to do so to Carol if Rex and Esther had not come in and saved his body at the last moment. Tracton then flew up, gathered all of his corrupted souls, and went toward the biggest city. After taking it over and building himself a throne, Dr. Eggman arrived with an army of robots. He began to fight the corrupted souls, but as he did so, Shadow and Knuckles arrived, those two being the last of Sonic's friends to withstand the corruption. The three made a truce, and they set out on their own separate missions. Eggman to free the city, Shadow to gather up the Chaos Emeralds, and Knuckles went to go find Carol, as he was the only person known to them who could reverse the corruption. At this time, Esther and Rex overlooked the destruction of the city, wondering what to do, until Kitsuneko arrived. She was proud of Esther for her repentance, and explained then her history with Tracton and Biovaria. She then told him what they had to do. Rex had to go get his jet, while Esther had to get a crystal from the bottom of the sea. The two set off to do that, while Kitsuneko's spirit went to the corrupted world to help out Carol, whose soul was forced there due to the Black Ice. There she read Carol out, forcing him to see all the evil the Black Ice had done. For whenever Carol killed someone with the Black Ice, it sent their soul here as if they were corrupted, and everyone who Tracton had infected was also there. Being tortured by the Purple Shades, citizens of Biovaria who once worshipped Tracton, who lived there. Carol, filled with grief and regret, now permanently renounced the Black Ice, which brought a great smile to Kitsuneko's face, as she was the one who granted him the ice powers in the first place. Then the two entered the last layer of the corrupted world, where a clone of Tract Soul in the form of the Shade King awaited them. Back in the physical world, Shadow, who was still looking for the Chaos Emeralds, encountered Silver and Blaze in the forest. Their powers of dimension and time warping were broken, as they were trying to find a threat to Silver's future, a giant red intergalactic vulture with many red smoky people. Shadow did not know about that, but he asked for the help to stop Tracton. The two agreed and helped him gather the remaining Chaos Emeralds. Then Rex, who had now gotten his repaired jet again, flew with Esther, who had gotten the crystal she needed, and forgave Carol with the help of Knuckles, back to Carol's body, where they saw him trembling. Esther then placed the crystal in his hand, it glowed a pinkish red, and it disappeared. Meanwhile, Carol tried to fight the Shade King, but his own power was too weak, so he asked Kitsuneko for help. Kitsuneko then raised up her hands and imbued Carol with her spear, transforming him into Kitsune Carol. He then obliterated the Shade King and woke him in his normal form in the physical world again. Carol, Esther, and Rex all made up with each other for their past failures, and it was then many considered Team Blizzard to be officially formed. They then stared at the city, wondering what to do, until Shadow, Knuckles, Silver, and Blaze arrived, all with the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Seeing everyone there, Rex got an idea. Silver, Blaze, Knuckles, and the newly arrived E123 Omega distracted the corrupted hordes as Shadow went super to distract Tracton, as he could deal no damage to him. But high in the air there was Rex's jet, invisible thanks to Esther, with Carol riding on top. The jet began to spin around as fast as it could, creating a huge gust of wind. But as this happened, Tracton slammed Super Shadow with his tail, and Shadow crashed into a building, the Chaos Emeralds falling out of him. This did not dissuade Team Blizzard. Esther and Carol then leapt into the air. Esther used her powers to hold them both up, and Carol shot his eyes all around them, all of it being sustained in the air by Esther. But when Tracton looked up then, that was not what he saw. He saw Kitsune surrounded by many, many red shards of ice. Kitsune Carol flung all the ice down to Tracton, cutting his wings and sending him plummeting. Jackson made one final roar of pain, his eyes turned a dead gray, and he collapsed. Strangely, his dead corpse faded into smoke and sank into the ground. The dragon was dead. All the corrupted souls who were watching this whole time regained their normal colors and personalities, and they all seemed to wake up from a bad dream with little to no recollection of what had happened, except for the torment of the corrupted world. Carol then saw the sky now cleared up, the sunset finally visible once again, and shed a tear. Thus it was that Team Blizzard reunited then on the battlefield, as all the corrupted souls returned to their bodies. Then, Gunnar arrived to clean up the mess of the city and find out what happened there. Esther, seeing that the time was right, decided to turn herself in for her crimes. Then Rex and Carol said goodbye to their friends, both old and new, and departed for Carol's home, Rex finally having the friend he sought for, and Carol finally having answers to his past. But the fall of Tractum had unforeseen consequences. Thanks to his end, the corrupted world was destroyed, and all the souls who resided there were freed, in particular Varro and all of his purple shades. They wanted the world until they found the restored Magnopus, who still possessed the Malaxium. The two decided to team up for a new dastardly plan, as Silver and Blaze unfortunately discovered on a trip to the Forgotten Kingdom to see what happened to their powers. He saw Blaze facing a giant army of purple and black men made of smoke. They were led by a vulture who wore an ominous black hooded cloak and his eyes were glowing a dead gray. A snow leopard was also with them, leading. "Who are you?" Silver asked aggressively, getting into a fighting stance. The leopard smiled. "Someone who can get you home." Then he pulled out a glowing red stone, trembling with a newfound power. And that is the end of the Blizzard lore, along with all of the Sonic lore you should find necessary for the full enjoyment of Blizzard. To find out what happens next, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the debut of BlizzardHailstorm Part 1, The La Perm, on August 15th, with an early access part of the audiobook coming out on August 1st. Hope to see you all there, and thank you for watching.